Hello and welcome to the round 16 recap for the AFL. This round we had some very interesting fixtures, but before we begin, I am going to say that I will be doing a midweek video, or want to experiment with a midweek video because last week's video was way too long. So I'm going to do predictions, little round preview, all that jazz. But anyway, let's hop into the first game of the week. I did not see the Richmond Gold Coast game. We'll skim over that later on. But we'll start off with the Essendon Geelong fixture. And Geelong were just too strong in this one. Essendon came out of the blocks. Jake Stringer was on fire early. He kicked 2. And look, I think for the majority of the night, Essendon were dominating the midfield. Darcy Parish, big game. Merritt, big game. Parish, I think, at 40 plus. So the Bombers had the ascendancy in that way, but their forward line it's a bit too inexperienced at the moment. It'll come with experience, but the Cats were just able to do whatever they wanted all night. Last week, they were deprived of that against Brisbane. They worked them out, but this week Cal Hooker never got going. Harry Jones, he had a good game against Hawthorn, but this week he didn't have the same impact. Yeah, the Cats, Stewart was back in form. The forwards were getting more involved. They failed to get into it early, but once they got going, it was pretty crucial to the success of the team. And I think it was a pretty wet one on Friday night, so they just found ways to do the little things, little tap-ons. Hawkins, I think, read a spoil in the goal square, and he just went straight through and kicked it from about 5 out. I think Isaac Smith kicked a soccer goal from about 30 out. Simple stuff like that. They were just playing to the conditions. Look, the Bombers, they dominated inside 50s all night. As I mentioned earlier, they didn't capitalize on the opportunities. Say in 3 years' time that could change, and there were some positive signs for them, but I think the inexperience just got to them. Jake Stringer tried all night. Interesting to see what that does for the premiership race or the ladder, because it's getting very, very tight up top. But anyway, let's move to the second game. GWS played Melbourne, and GWS played really badly last week, and I thought that they'd missed their opportunity coming into a big game this week against the top side. And they came out firing. They got back to their ball movement ways. Whitfield, Kelly, Taranto, they were key. Shane Mumford back in. Also, the stats show how much of an influence he has when he's in the game and what he does to that midfield. He adds a new dynamic. He made it tougher for Maxi Gawn as well. And look, the Ds, they never really got going till the last. They had a lot of struggles scoring. And then once, I think, Petrarca, Oliver, Fritsch and McDonald, they got in the game early in that last quarter, and I just thought that they were going to run over the top. But that never happened. The Giants' defense, they held up very well all day. The lack of options that the D's forwards were providing sort of helped them out in a way. But at the same time, this Giants defense, even without Jack Buckley, he went down early. It's still a very young Giants backline with Connor Iden, Cumming, all those guys, complemented by Haynes and Davis. Yeah, look, it was a pretty mature effort from the Giants. The Ds also had their opportunities. They had a lot of snaps on goal, and they just didn't come off. I think Jaden Hunt got run down twice trying to take the game on, and that's what you should be doing in the last quarter when you're down. But he probably needed a bit more game awareness. And the scoreline probably could have been a lot different. But fair play to GWS. They needed this win. They're now in the 8. Amazing as that sounds, Richmond are now out of the 8. It's getting very interesting down the back end. It's very split up. The top 5 sides are very close together, and then those 6th, 7th, and 8th spots. Last week I said it was going to be tight with those 3, and it's getting even more interesting with a few results happening this week. Anyway, we move on to the Carlton Freo game. Of course, I have to bring up a Carlton game, being a Carlton fan. I went to watch this one at the ground, and may I just say, it was very weird to see only 12,000 fans in for an away game at the MCG. Freo were the home side. It was so weird seeing the MCG in purple. Look, it wasn't close in the first quarter. I thought we were going to run away with it very easily. It was going to follow the same trend of earlier in the season when we won pretty convincingly. Paddy Dow, very good start to the game. He faded away, and I think that's the next aspect he's got to add to his game. Just the endurance aspect, you know, staying involved. Because I think his breakaway speed in the contest was very crucial to the success early on. Because then we became a bit one-paced, and we were getting killed out the middle in those second and third quarters when Freo just fought back. But I think for us, something we've added the last couple of weeks is a bit more resilience. We've been able to come back with a response if we get challenged. Freo kicked a couple goals. We were able to add one back. We didn't let them go on a run. Specifically, we gave away a lot of scores, but in saying that, we were able to kick, we didn't kick less than 17 points in a quarter all night, which was, I think, pretty crucial to us winning this one. Freo, you know, they had a lot of opportunities. They kicked 8 goals, 16 on the night. That comes down in experience. You have Liam Henry, I think he missed a couple from the goal square. Instead of kicking a drop punt, he tried to dribble it along the ground. It didn't work. I think that third quarter, and I mean for the majority of the night, Sean Darcy absolutely killed TDK in the ruck. David Mundy came alive in that third quarter. It's just amazing how he keeps doing what he's doing at 35, I think he is. I think the key to the success in the last few weeks for Carlton has been the sort of shuffling of the midfield. There's less strain on Cripps, Walsh and Curnow. We're seeing Kennedy in there. We're seeing Dow in there. You probably could put Stocker in there later on this year. Samo can go in there. There's plenty of options, and there's still options in the VFL. A lot of selection problems for Carlton with that, which is a really good thing. It's a really good thing for the side. It's just a matter of getting the right balance. I'll give some credit to Alex Pearce. He held Harry Mackay pretty well to 3 goals. To say that Harry Mackay had a bad game, probably by his standards he did, but the fact he was still able to get involved and kick the most goals for Carlton, despite having a bit of an off night, where he struggled to get in the game at times, is a really positive sign for us. And Patrick Cripps, man, he was injured in the first quarter. He's a warrior, and he stayed involved in the big moments, and I think something like that is what he needs to do as a captain. He needs to set the example. He needs to show the toughness, the effort, the resilience, and that is key to our success for the year. I think amazingly, the Blues are only a win and a half outside the 8, which is absolutely mind-boggling given the amount of shit the media has given us. Wiedering and Jones, brilliant. Sammy Walshy just keeps on doing shit. I mean, doing shit, like good shit, you know what I'm saying? Nothing more to be said. We move on to game 4, and I thought I'd see a bit more competitiveness in this one. Sydney played West Coast, and oh my goodness, West Coast are really, really damn bad. They played Geelong at GMHBA earlier in the year, and you would have thought that they would have learnt something. They didn't. They've lost by, I think, 190 combined points in their 2 losses there this year. Sydney, you know, they came out with more effort for the whole day. They just kept running. They were offering targets down the line. They were applying forward pressure, you know, all those little things that resulted in plenty of scores. I think West Coast, their key tolls in the back line, their influence was negated. Lance Franklin, I think he kicked 3 or something, big buddy. Joel Amadi, we'll talk about him in a second, but he kicked a couple goals. Errol Goulden has been crucial. I love him as a player. He can kick on both sides. He can get on the scoreboard. He applies pressure. He's been really important, applying another aspect to their forward line. He even went back in this game which is something we haven't seen from him so far this season. He usually plays half forward and not really in the middle, but he plays as a high half forward. He gets involved. Now we'll talk about Joel Amadi. He took a brilliant pack mark, plenty of courage. There were a couple occasions where it was a 1v2 down the line, and he was able to kill that ball, and simple stuff like that, not giving West Coast opportunities because they couldn't get their hands on the ball at all throughout the day. And stuff like that was a primary contributor. Sydney, yeah, as I mentioned earlier, they were pretty much allowed to do whatever they wanted. The corridor was absolutely wide open. As I said, the West Coast defenders had no influence, and that was primarily because the ball was going in that fast without any pressure that they could do nothing about it. When it got inside the forward 50, they couldn't get the ball out because there was just a wall around it, and they were getting hack kicks out straight to Swans defenders, or they were getting tackled and either getting pinged for holding the ball or was getting locked in. And the Swans were winning the ground ball all day, so that obviously made it even more dangerous. So that was pretty much the key, the formula to success for Sydney over the weekend. But look, I thought West Coast would come out with a bit more urgency given the importance of the fixture. It's technically an 8-point swing now. The Swans gained 4 while they also deprived West Coast of winning 4. So fixtures like that are really, really important. Because it was such a smashing, it was even more damning to the West Coast finals hopes, because their percentage is now very unhealthy given where they're sitting on the ladder, and there's teams breathing down their neck, so they want to be very, very careful that they don't trip up and they win the games that they shouldn't be dropping. I think we move on to the final fixture that I covered, the Pies Saints game. We had some pretty dead fixtures on Sunday, so I picked the Pies Saints, and until the last quarter was pretty dead. The Saints always had that extra step on the Pies. They never really let the Pies in the game. The Pies looked pretty atrocious going forward, until the last quarter, where the Pies just sort of got a kick up the arse and they actually started playing some positive footy. And you saw the result. They were absolutely storming home, and for a little moment there, they were almost looking like they were going to run over the top. I love seeing Collingwood fans falling guilty to false hope, and this was no exception. The Saints just held on. There were so many what ifs for Collingwood here, like where was the game plan? What if they kicked straight in the last? Because I think they were 3 goals 7 they ended on 8 goals 13. That goal by the Saints where, I don't know, there was some umpire confusion and it cost the Saints a goal because the Pies all stopped, the Saints kept going, and it was just open goal. If that goal didn't happen, we may have been seeing a different result. But yeah, you can only say shoulda, coulda, woulda. Should have done this, could have done this, would have done this. It is what it is. And, the Pies will be ruining their opportunities. They've lost another one. There's not much to look forward to as a Pies fan, but we'll see what the rest of their season looks like. There's probably not too many more games that they can win, or they're going in favourites for. For the Saints, Jack Steele is an absolute warrior. 36 touches, 14 tackles. And, Membry got on the score sheet. He's been, fairly important the last couple of weeks for them, providing another option. King looks to have his confidence back. The Smalls are getting a bit more involved. Brad Hill, his run-off halfback's been really important. They just needed to find the right place to put him, because when he's at his best, and he makes the whole team better. He makes the ball movement better. He makes the quality of kicking better. But yeah, look, it's looking pretty dire for Collingwood. And the Saints, as crazy as it sounds, they're also in contention. So that back end of the 8 is looking really intriguing, and down to 12th, all those sides can contend. Little things to note, we'll just quickly skim through the other few games. Gold Coast, they played Richmond, and look, you thought Richmond would bounce back after last week. No. No, they didn't. And I think I've seen the Hardwick comment pre-game a few times now. And look, Richmond just didn't live up to it. Didn't live up to expectation. And of all sides they lost, it was Gold Coast. In front of 9,000 fans at Marvel. An away game for them. And they lost it. Absolute disaster for Richmond. They're out of the 8 now. And look, the way they're playing at the moment, they're not going to make the 8. They've got plenty of sides, you know, right with them on points. So they've got to be very careful that they don't drop any fixtures, because their end of year result could look very dire for them, given other results don't go their way either. On Saturday, Adelaide played Brisbane. Brisbane got up. This was expected, you know. I think a couple of weeks ago, Brisbane played North. They held them off. They got the job done. This was much similar, you know, Zachy Bailey. There's been plenty of talk about how good his season has been, and the other night was no exception for him. They didn't have Lachie Neale, didn't really make a difference. Zorko had an off night as well. I didn't really watch this one, but yeah, look, the Lions just keep getting it done, and look, they could be in top 2. You never know that. I think there's only 4 points between 1st and 5th. So who's gonna be the unlucky one out? And we'll have to go through an elimination final. It's my best guess who that'll be. But anyway, it's going to be a very, very good run to the end of the season, as I have said many times earlier. Port played Hawthorn. We knew Port were going to win this one. Hawthorn apparently were very, very bad. But Silk has reached 400 now. Is he going to break the game's record? I think even if he goes on next year, Hawks aren't making finals, so I don't think he's going to get to the infamous 430 mark, I believe, 432 or 428, something like that. But look, fair play to him. They thought his career was gone, but he's gone on and played 400, so absolutely nuts for him. But yeah, Hawthorn did not give him any respect. They played absolutely garbage. Port just keep getting it done as well. You know, they're doing the job against the bottom sides. I said a couple of weeks ago, they need to prove themselves against a big side. They got Melbourne this week at the Adelaide Oval. It's going to be a ripper, and I think I'm going to cover that game. Yeah, but Wines, he's been a gun. No secret about that. But anyway, we'll move on to the final game of the round that I didn't cover, and that was the Dogs and North, and it was pretty much a no contest until the last. The North Melbourne Football Club have improved. The Dogs took their foot off the gas. North, I think, kicked 4 goals 8 in the last. Imagine if they flipped that score around. It could have been a very intriguing last quarter. I think, yeah, the Dogs just let them back in, but they let a side back in that didn't have the class to close the gap and put a lot of pressure on the Dogs. They only got within about 15 or 20 points, so they were never really threatening the Dogs from getting the 4 points. But look, North have improved since the start of the year. They got absolutely killed by the Dogs by about 130. It was an absolute demolition, but this round showed much better and promising signs. Yeah, and they've done so for the last month, which is really good if you're a North Melbourne supporter. But that is all. We will have a predictions video in the middle of the week, but I hope you enjoyed this one. And I'll see you back here whenever that may be. And subscribe so you know when I'm doing the previews and the reviews. Anyway, so long for now. We'll see you next time. Peace out.